Hello, this is Daniel Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. I'm traveling. I'm in northern Arizona right now, a little over 7,000 feet elevation. It's a bit overcast with a light dusting of snow. But because this isn't my usual setup, I'm not going to be able to run my usual B-roll in the background. But that's okay because they really can't show you anything relevant to what I'm talking about. So it's not quite that much of a problem. Which means, of course, I'm going to be talking about last weekend's Evocati playtest of server meshing and jump tunnels between Stanton and Pyro. So first, an overview, if you haven't been following, of exactly how that went from my standpoint. The servers functioned well, but my clients, both my desktop and my gaming laptop, had frequent hangs. These hangs were mitigated but not eliminated by going to borderless mode from full screen. Once the hangs were mitigated, I was able to make multiple round trips from Stanton to Pyro and back again because the hangs were recovered from excellently. I did it in as craft as small as a Cutter Rambler and as large as a C2. Then on Saturday, CIG did testing against a shard user count of up to 200 and then upped the shard user count to as high as 400 on Saturday. These tests were, from an engineering perspective, successful. Now, from an engineering perspective, successful means that the desired stress levels were achieved, in other words, the test parameters were met, and that useful data was collected. That is quite different than saying that it was problem-free enough to open it up to the public in that condition. Interestingly, the Stanton servers had more problems than the Pyro servers. I suspect that is because Stanton is a more completely built-out server, and that Pyro, right now, has even more so than there is a starbase right next to the Stanton side of the Stanton to Pyro jump point, but nothing at all on the Pyro side. And the Pyro to Stanton jump point had nothing on either side. And they're currently 75 million kilometers apart. And so the place that people would collect and stage and get together and log out at would be the station right at Stanton to Pyro. So that is a bit of the problem, that people were doing some false math here and saying, well, yeah, 200 here, 200 there, the count is 400. People, real people, do not congregate that way. When they first upped the player count from 50 to 100, the very first thing people did was to put 100 people in an 890 jump. And that would be exactly the same way here as soon as they upped the player count. There was also a lot of 50 versus 50 battles that were immediately launched. And so every upping of the server count, the shard count now, is going to be met with somebody saying, hey, let's all get together for a group photo on the exercise mat at New Babbage. And heck, I would be there too. And if you're honest, you would be there because it's fun. It's fun to have so many players gathered in one location. And it's also fun to push the server to their limits. And frankly, you expect when you put that many people together that performance will be affected. What you hope doesn't happen is that the servers actually crash. So it was a great achievement, really thrilling to see both static meshing and jump points working and all that. But, and there's always a but, is it ready to have the NDA dropped and opened up to the general public with all the streamers and content creators that go with that? My being able to do this video while showing how good or bad it is going. Because honestly, what still needs to get this to be presentable state is far less, of course, than what has been accomplished so far. But this rest of this video is going to be my talking about the punch list, what still has to happen between now and this being ready for being opened up, not under NDA. So the first thing that has to happen is that the placeholder text in the interface for the jump points need to be replaced with real text, and the real text needs to be clearer about what you are supposed to be doing at each step. There was a lot of confusion about why people were getting rejected by the jump point. Was it because they weren't close enough, because they weren't fast enough, or what? I know you can say read the patch notes more carefully, but but that is not okay, maybe to say for Evocatis, but when the general population gets in there, saying read the patch notes is essentially an admission of failure of the game itself. But then I think maybe they did this on purpose. If your goal is to not to have people share images or videos, then having the text be weird is a dead giveaway that those images and pictures were done from the NDA build. Which brings me to the second item. Put the textures into the jump tunnel, which currently were just solid, flat polygons, basically just white box, without any shading whatsoever. Now, we know that the textures exist. They were demonstrated many years ago, or at least a version of them was demonstrated many years ago. I'm sure they've got more current versions now. But I'm suspecting again that they might have deliberately left the textures out to watermark any images or video as being from the NDA build. But the third item is something more significant. The exit point from the jump points needs to be randomized to a greater degree. To my knowledge, nobody has made precise measurements, but there were many close calls of being rear-ended by the ship leaving jump right behind you. The reason this is important is that it has always been described as being possible to camp a jump point entrance, but not possible to camp a jump point exit because the large range of which the exits would be occurring. With everybody being forced to exit the jump point at a campable area, the temptation when exposed to the whole range of players for the interested in creating trouble, the camp exit would be a huge temptation. This also brings up the side point of what should happen if something that is in the way. My suggestion would it be that with the current quantum travel, you leave the jump tunnel at zero relative velocity to the new frame of reference, and if you exit literally co-located with a ship or piece of debris or asteroid, your drop point is adjusted to be just past the item. Nobody's ever exited right on top of somebody else, and if that was possible, it would have happened just out of pure randomness after this many years of being tested in live. Now, the fourth is that the current entry particle effect is a placeholder, I hope, and it should be replaced with the real one. And if it isn't just a placeholder, it should be replaced anyway. The reason is that the entrance is directional, yet the particle effect gives no indication of the direction you need to enter. Now, this isn't a problem at the Stanton entrance, because there's this entire super highway of billboards and frames leading right up to it. But the Pyro entrance has no markings at all. And if you're just planning travel, and so with the Pyro side, you're just playing trial and error with the angle and the display. Adjust it, see if the number changes, adjust it, see if the number changes, and that's not really fun at all, and doesn't feel diegetic. So you can say add some extra frames to the Pyro side, but eventually we are going to be dealing with star systems that are literally the first time humans are seeing them. So the jump tunnel should have an animation, a particle effect covering the entrance that gives a visual indication of the angle you're supposed to be going to it, and then the text simply confirms that you're within the proper error range of that center point. Now finally, also, the Stanton to Pyro and Pyro to Stanton should be moved close enough that they feel like they are two directions of the same tunnel. During the test, they were 75 million kilometers apart, which meant that 150 million kilometers of quantum travel were needed just to complete a loop of the jump tunnels. Considering how narrow the tunnels themselves are, having them 75 million kilometers apart strains credulity. Now, yes, this is sci-fi, so that coming up with some sort of theory crafting about why they are so far apart is always possible, but in a world that is supposed to be living, breathing universe, handwavium should be regarded as a limited resource that should be deployed only when necessary and in the smallest quantity needed. And 75 million kilometers is neither of those. How close should the exit be to the entrance? I would say anywhere in the same dust cloud is fine. In fact, anywhere within the same dust cloud should be a fine zone for how much the exit should be randomized, since it then also explains why the dust cloud exists and why it is the size that it is. So that's the punch list for getting all this ready for more public preview. It's actually really not all that much. So finally, an update on our Grow the Channel ship giveaway. We continue to make progress towards awarding some lucky player the Zippy Zazzy Zaftig Zephyr, the Zeus 2 cargo, as well as toward the marvelous multi-user, multi-role mining meta, the Arasta. 1 entry per video, just be a member for automatic entry, or comment, including as a subscriber, with the secret word. And the secret word for this video is... what is it? The thing that should be regarded as a limited resource. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.